What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. We hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're excited to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, our Dallas Cowboys. Welcome on it all. It is the post game here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, the Blogging the Boys Twitch channel, and the Blogging the Boys Facebook page. Make sure to subscribe or like us wherever you're watching the show, whether you are live or watching it after the fact, or even if you're listening, because we do podcast this on the Blogging the Boys podcast network as well. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast network. If you like podcasts, we have two different shows that come out each and every single day to make sure that you are caught up on all things America's team. And of course, make sure to check out bloggingtheboys.com for the latest and greatest in the world of the Dallas Cowboys. Those Dallas Cowboys, our Dallas Cowboys that won in a tough fashion on Monday night, 20-17, the final score at SoFi Stadium against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Cowboys have never lost to the Chargers in that building, incidentally. This was tough. This was like a root canal. I mean, this was going to the dentist in any kind of way. And apologies to any of you if you work in any kind of dental industry or field or whatever the case may be. But a trip to the dentist is something that I always just kind of tend to not enjoy, not look forward to. And this was that. I mean, this was painful. It felt like this took years off of our life. As a Houston Astros fan, the week hasn't started off all too well for me, but congratulations to our followers, those of you who support the Texas Rangers. We'll leave it at that. But goodness gracious, the Cowboys, everybody knew we're going into this game to face Kellen Moore and his offense, obviously the former offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. What was the story going to be? What was the narrative that we were all going to ultimately be able to take? 272 yards for Kellen Moore's mighty Los Angeles Chargers offense, who is coming off of their bye, by the way. The Cowboys now on their bye with a 4-2 record. Dallas had 342 yards of total offense, but I don't think that is necessarily anything for us to feel proud of, because it was such a tough, kind of grinded out, gritty game for the Cowboys, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. There were some things about this that were very troubling that we will get to. Obviously, we'll, of course, handle my stock report. It's already written and it's hitting the presses at bloggingtheboys.com. I'll also have an Instagram whip up around this as well on Tuesday. By the way, tomorrow, even though it's Tuesday, it is Victory Polo Monday. It's all about the brand, people, but it is happening on a Tuesday. So take a selfie, tag me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa. There's a lot to get to here. There's a lot to this apple. So let's go ahead and start taking some bites. Let's see here. Let's get to your comments. Roy, Texas 26 says Dak, CD, Cooks balled. The offensive line got work. Defense did better, but still undisciplined. Too many flags. An unbelievable amount of penalties in this game. The Cowboys were penalized 11 times. 11 accepted penalties is maybe the better way to put that, or the more accurate way to put that. 85 penalty yards for the Cowboys, again, on accepted penalties. The Chargers penalized or had 9 accepted penalties for 79 total yards. 20 total penalties that were accepted in this game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and defend the Cowboys and say that they're not undisciplined or anything like that, because some of these penalties are really flagrant, like offsides and, illegal formations and stuff that shouldn't even be happening, these pre-snap penalties. But hey, refs, maybe chill the hell out. We don't want to see you. I mean, quit making this all about you guys. All right. We don't want to watch any NFL game, let alone one that has the Cowboys that has 20 penalties going on. Nobody wants that. Get a grip. Anyway, Xavier says, wow, what an odd game. Way too many flags, but CD looks really good today. Rex Morgan says 7 incomplete passes to Gallup with the vomit emoji. Shane Davis says Kellen Moore stinking up his side of the scoreboard. Wasn't it all how the national narrative thought this was going to go? I want to tell you about national narrative. There will not, I'm going to predict this, be anything said about Justin Herbert throwing the game-losing interception on a night where his offense didn't do anything. Kellen Moore is going to take the heat for the LA Chargers offense being stymied, not Justin Herbert, if we're predicting the way the national narrative is going to go. Adrian says, play calling was trash in crucial spots. Dak contacted his inner Romo. We don't have to do this. Dak contacted his inner Dak. I mean, I love Tony Romo just as much as the next Cowboys fan, but at this point, Dak is of his own legacy and made things happen. Steve says, RJ, please tell me on what planet is it legal to tackle the punt returner before he even catches the punt. Again, this game kind of had it all. Let's see here. Knox Nero, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, says Marquise Bell stepping up with Noah Leighton Vander Esch. That is totally true. Kevin, who has never liked Jalen Tolbert, if you watch our shows, says Tolbert is a waste of a game day roster spot. I'm going to be frank. I'm going to be straight up right now. I have a lot of stock ups to hand out. I have a lot of stock downs. I do not have Jalen Tolbert as a stock down. I know that was a weird play. I know some people are pissed off about this. I tweeted about this and the results were kind of mixed. I don't blame Jalen Tolbert. I mean, it's a very quick happening thing. Jalen Tolbert very clearly thought that he had to jump on the ball. I don't blame him for that. I feel like he has earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes to this particular season. He's played very well. He's played some heads up, smart football. I'm inclined to give Jalen Tolbert a pass here, even though the result obviously hurt the Cowboys, which none of us want to see. A good friend of mine, Mikey Montano, says, I'm happy we won, but this game changed nothing about how I feel about this team. I think this is a pretty common disposition that a lot of people are going to have. But still, these are problems that are easier to work out if you're 4-2 at the bye, as opposed to being 3-3, which again, everybody ultimately agrees with. Let's get to a super chat here. I don't want to miss it. Mason, thank you very much for the super chat. Says RJ, hey RJ, love the show. Stock up Brandon Cooks, go Rangers. Hey, you know what? I'm a big believer in when your team wins, you get to talk some trash. And right now the Rangers have a 2-0 lead in the ALCS. So very quiet night from me, as I do have my Houston Astros gold gear from when we won the World Series last year. But again, neither here nor there. Congratulations to all of you who root for the Texas Rangers. Brian, good friend. Everybody follow Brian on TikTok at Talk Cowboys. Says, good RJ Tolbert doesn't deserve a stock down. Let's see here. I'm making sure we're caught up. Let's begin. All right. Johnny Boy RN says, this team played so scared in the first half. This was a really weird offensive game from the Cowboys. I think scared is the right way to put it. I think the Cowboys were a bit hesitant, which is just a synonym for scared. I think the Cowboys were maybe afraid of what they would find out, right? Maybe afraid of confirming that who they were against San Francisco is just who they are and not a result of, the big bad 49ers. And they kind of played, in a bit of a shell. And we'll get obviously to the end of the first half and that fiasco. Risley Bear, thank you for the super chat. Says our line is no longer good. The offensive line hasn't been great for a long time. Just to be very clear here, I just want that on the record. The Cowboys offensive line has been average to a little bit below average, I would say, for the last 3 years at this point in time, maybe the whole Mike McCarthy era. I don't say that to give Mike McCarthy a pass, but consider that when Mike McCarthy signed his contract to be the head coach of the Cowboys, that Travis Frederick was his starting center, Tyron Smith was his left tackle, Lyle Collins was his right tackle, and like 3 games into that first season in 2020, none of them were there. So it's just been a game of musical chairs in a lot of senses along the offensive line. So obviously they're not going to be that great. This was, for what it's worth, the second game with all 5 of the intended starters along the line, and it was the first win in that era. So that is good to see. Matthew says, who would have thought before the season the worst part of our defense would be the safeties? Wilson and Curse are bad. Jordan Lewis too. Jordan Lewis is a corner. I don't know if you're just lumping him in there. I don't think that Donovan Wilson was bad tonight. I don't think Jaron Curse was bad. Jaron Curse had a bad game in San Francisco. I think they had some poor moments, but I really didn't have a problem with the safety play tonight specifically. But again, this was a night where it was kind of easy to have problems all over the place if you missed one spot, me, you, whoever, is kind of understandable. David with an important point says Eagles and 49ers 8-L. This was a big win for the Cowboys in that they are 4-2 now, and they picked up some help on Sunday. What with the San Francisco 49ers losing to the Cleveland Browns and the Philadelphia Eagles losing to the New York Jets, the Cowboys made up some ground this week. And now they get to sit back, they get to relax, and they get to hope that the Philadelphia Eagles fall again. This week they play the Miami Dolphins, in case you didn't know. The 49ers fall again. Maybe Kirk Cousins helps us out. You never know. They play on Monday Night Football next week. It is a nice place to be, given everything that felt, chaotic over the course of the last 7 days. Christian on Facebook says Gallup has been a huge disappointment. Excuse me there. Yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and start, I guess. Let's start the stock part of this discussion. I'm going to go stock down Michael Gallup. And I don't really blame Michael Gallup for this. This is a weird kind of stock down. I mean, everything was weird about this game. Michael Gallup in this game was targeted an amazing, I really cannot believe this to be the case, 10 times when CeeDee Lamb was targeted 7. 10 targets for Michael Gallup. And fine, you want to target anybody 10 times? Okay, cool. Well, then you know what? They better have like 6 catches, right? Like, I mean, just on a rule of thumb, right? Like just the way math works, like there better be like at least a 60% conversion rate here. 3 catches for Michael Gallup. And that's not all on Michael Gallup. I don't mean to kind of isolate him. 3 catches for 24 yards off of 10 targets. There has to be a better utilization of this material at this point. I wrote a few weeks ago at our site that we were starting to see the physical tenacity of Michael Gallup. I think we saw that in Arizona. I maintain that that is true. I think that physically he is finally the version of himself that he was before the torn ACL that he suffered. What was it now? A year and change ago, year and a half, almost 2 years ago. So that's not the problem, but this is just not clicking. We do not need to be think about this for a second. 10 targets. Dak Prescott threw the ball 30 times in this game. A third of his intended targets went to Michael Gallup. I don't understand what that is. So I'm with all of you that kind of feel this way. I'm also with, let's see here. Kevin says I missed a super chat. I'm going back. I want to make sure super chat. We got Mason. We got Risley Bear. Thank you, Tyler, for the super chats. It's still pretty scared for the 49ers Eagles come January. I agree with you, Tyler, but this is an October conversation. Halloween hasn't even happened yet. All right. So we're taking things day by day, week by week, 4-2. We're happy. Little Buddy 81, thank you for the super chat. Says our weakness is the run defense. 53 yards rushing allowed. That's a plus for me. With that being said, with that being our weakness, on to the bye, beat the Rams and focus on the second biggest game of the year. Beat Philly. Yes, the Cowboys do host the Rams coming out of their bye. The Rams have been kind of cute this season. I don't think any of us want to overlook that game. But then, hell yeah, the Cowboys go to Philadelphia in what's going to be an epic showdown. That game is on Sunday Night Football, and it's going to do crazy numbers. Tyler, thank you for the super chat again. Says Brandon Aubrey, simply the best. Brandon Aubrey is a perfect 16 of 16 on field goal attempts as a member of the Dallas Cowboys. He has not missed a kick outside of that first extra point in week 1 of the season, with another game that was on Sunday Night Football. So Brandon Aubrey has been the absolute real deal. Bree Nick says, I love Gallup, but stock down. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I don't want to, admit to it or cop to it myself. Risley Bear says, I agree, but it's bad now. It's tough. I think we all thought that if Gallup could return to form, that this offense could kind of really evolve with having him as another kind of dynamic weapon, but that just is not happening. I agree with Julie Flores here on YouTube, says it was nice to see Cooks get involved. Finally, yes, we've been screaming for this. Brandon Cooks got his first career touchdown, obviously. If it isn't obvious, thank you, Julie, for setting me up. Stock up, Brandon Cooks, man alive. And the touchdown was awesome, but the clutch third down reception as well, the jet sweep. I mean, these are the things like the route that Brandon Cooks ran. He's so fast. Those are the things that we've been screaming about now for what took 6 weeks to ultimately take. And I know that he missed time, obviously, but Brandon Cooks is a different weapon that you can use in ways like that. And the fact that the Cowboys finally did it was indeed a breath of fresh air. But again, the best play that Brandon Cooks made might have been that third down catch. That was incredible, and an incredible throw by Dak Prescott. Just a really clutch moment. It was awesome to see kind of this clutch dude who we all had these high hopes for come in and be clutch. And similarly, Stephon Gilmore had the clutch interception at the very end. Kind of a cool thing for those two players who've taken some heat so far this season for not being what we thought they would be. And I know the calculus with Gilmore changed with the Trayvon Diggs injury and everything like that, but cool night for them in that particular sense. So stock up Brandon Cooks for me. Shane Davis says Cooks taking over wide receiver 2 role, none too soon. I agree, and I agree with most people. And I hate piling on Michael Gallup because I'm a big fan of his. I know we all are, but I'm ready to see some Jalen Tolbert in the offense. That's where we're at on this. We need some Jalen Tolbert involved in the offense. By the way, I appreciate Kevin Wolf. Kevin has made me realize I say man alive a lot. So we're on the board in terms of man alive. Anyway, Jorge says stock down the Zebras times what is this, 100,000? Yeah, it was a really, really, really tough day for the officials. Again, 20 penalties. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that in any way, shape, or form. But let's move on. We have a lot more stock reports to get to. Chris, thank you for the super chat. Says held a good offense to 17 points. That's very true. Great point by Chris here. And that last touchdown was aided by the muffed punt. Otherwise, might have held them to 10. That's pretty good. Completely agree with Chris here. And I still have some stock downs to hand out on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't mean to be picky, but the standard for the defense, for this defense, has risen, right? I think we would all agree with that over the course of the Dan Quinn era. And it was not a good look when early on the Chargers went down and just kind of bullied them. But to their credit, to Dan Quinn's credit, to everybody's credit, they just kind of dug in. And, maybe they were a little bit frazzled. It took kind of getting punched in the mouth to settle into the game. They really, really, really took charge. And again, the Chargers offense was what, like 5th in offensive EPA per play entering week 6. I mean, this was a great group who the Cowboys limited. And I know that we all, act salty or whatever because Justin Herbert doesn't get the criticism that Dak Prescott does, but he's absolutely a top quarterback in this league. Kellen Moore is, easy, low-hanging fruit for Cowboys fans now that this game is over, but he is an incredibly bright mind. This is a very, very talented offense that the Cowboys, to Chris's point, for the most part, held in check. So kudos to the Cowboys defense. Very, very impressed with them overall. Rob says on YouTube, where would you start in fixing the offense? I would start with not being so afraid. And I know that that's a really wide net to cast, and I don't mean to act like I have any answers, let alone all of the answers. But to me, it seems like if you are acting afraid, you've lost. And I guess we have to, kind of have this discussion now. I wanted to hand out some more stock ups, but my number one stock down, and this was the lead on the stock downs when I wrote the article, which you can check out at blogontheboys.com, Mike McCarthy. Now, look, if you have listened to our shows, if you have followed me on any kind of social medium for the last 3 years, you know that I have done everything I can to give Mike McCarthy the benefit of the doubt. I have done everything I can to give him grace and extend him grace. Obviously, that first season was difficult in a general sense, but particularly because of the Dak Prescott injury. I maintain that Mike McCarthy has helped institute a successful football culture with this team that really has not existed in the 21st century in terms of the consistency that we have seen. Again, they're probably going to be a playoff team this year for the 3rd year in a row. That has not happened for the Cowboys, in a very, very long time, since the mid-90s. And so all of those things can be true, while it can simultaneously be true that Monday night was a really, really, really bad night for Mike McCarthy. The offense was just, again, in general, like pulling teeth. Dak Prescott really saved this Cowboys game, and we'll get to Dak, obviously. But I mean, man alive, there's another one. Mike McCarthy just made things so much more difficult, and the end of first half sequence is just frankly unforgivable. And that's a heavy word to use, and I'm somewhat exaggerating, but it is such a difficult thing to defend. It's impossible to defend. I can't defend what Mike McCarthy did at the end of the first half. In case anybody didn't see it, maybe you were traveling or coming home or going here, going there, wherever, dealing with kids or whatever, the dogs, I don't know, whatever you got going on in your life. You're a busy person, I understand. The end of the first half, the Cowboys get to the Chargers 14-yard line. There are 8 seconds left on the clock. The Cowboys have 2 timeouts in their pocket. The official on the sideline presumed that Mike McCarthy wanted a timeout. Mike McCarthy did not. There was some confusion. Again, if you were not watching live, about what happened all throughout the course of halftime, because while there were 8 seconds left on the clock, all of a sudden there were 3 seconds left. And nobody understood where those 5 seconds went. Thankfully, Joe Buck, after teasing us for a little bit, offered some explanation once the second half began. We were told as a viewing audience that Mike McCarthy never intended to stop the clock, that the official stopped the clock, and that Mike himself was like, "What are you doing stopping the clock?" And the official was probably like, "I don't know, trying to help you be a better football coach." But Mike McCarthy completely and totally settling for a field goal opportunity that Brandon Aubrey did convert, to his credit, but settling for that from the 8-yard line with an offense that has such potential, that he's got his hands on, that he wanted his hands on, versus the dude who was literally on the opposite sideline from him in this particular game. It was such a cowardly decision. And that is a really scary thing to think about, that being the person who's got their fingerprints all over, the trigger points of this offense across the rest of these 11 remaining regular season games and hopefully beyond. And what are you doing, dude? What do you do? The last time the Cowboys went to this building, this very same building, SoFi Stadium, Mike McCarthy had this awesome, epic quote. Cooper Rush was the starting quarterback for the Cowboys at the time. This was when Dak was missing, time a year ago, and the Cowboys were big-time underdogs. I want to say they were like 4.5-point underdogs. And Mike McCarthy was asked about that in the week leading up, and he was like, "We're nobody's underdog." And I thought at the time, like, what a badass line. Like, this is super cool, dude. Like, respect on believing in your team. and to just have flipped a complete and total 180 in disposition when you have more control now is just a really discouraging thing to see. The Cowboys did win by 3, but I tell you what, I would have been a lot less stressed if they had won by 7, and they might have. And you can sit here and you can tell me that the Cowboys have red zone issues as an offense, which is a thing that's plaguing the entire NFL. But to hell with that, because shortly before that, in this very same game, the Cowboys faced a 4th and short and decided to go for it. They failed, and that's besides the point. But I mean, they were clearly fine punting, no pun intended. That's not a great pun, actually. They were fine punting on that opportunity in the name of being aggressive earlier in this game. So you can't be Jekyll one moment and then be Hyde the other. You're not Harvey Dent flipping some coin, Mike. You have to be the same aggressive, nobody's underdog dude all the time, or what the hell are you doing here? So that is my rant on this. Namir, thank you for the super chat, says, win is a win. Mike M is frustrating, but he needs to build off that touchdown drive where he went empty and shotgun entirely. Put the ball in Dak's hands. I agree. I mean, Mike, you want to do nothing or whatever, then just sit back and let Dak do his thing. Quit limiting things. Quit putting a ceiling on a group that we know has potential to be the best offense in the NFL. We have literally seen that in different seasons. And I'm not saying that Mike McCarthy is an inferior play caller to Kellen Moore, but on Monday night, he certainly was. On Monday night, he was an inferior play caller to most play callers in the NFL. Brian, thank you for the super chat. Says the offense has looked stale all season. Originally, we just chalked it up to blowouts. But no, I think this Texas toast offense is bland and vanilla. This should be a dynamic offense, and it's not. I completely agree. It was a really, really bad moment. And that was just one moment. I mean, the offense as a whole was just really difficult all game long. If not for the 60-yard Dak Prescott to Tony Pollard connection, if not for the insane, third down throw and third down catch from Dak Prescott to Brandon Cooks. I mean, it was literally this, Jenga tower that the Cowboys so carefully had to pull, just to survive on offense. It should not have been that difficult, to be honest. The Chargers were awful entering this game on defense. Pick whatever metric you want, deep level or not. The Chargers had one of the worst secondaries in the NFL entering this game, and the Cowboys completely just did nothing about it. I mean, that is such a hard pill to swallow, and it's an easier thing to take given that the Cowboys won and that they're 4-2 at their bye week. But if this is who you're going to be, man, pack it up and go home. I mean, because you're not going to get far. You are not going to contend with the elites in the NFL playing this shy, cowardly game. That absolutely has to change. That was the worst moment of the season for the Cowboys. It really was. And I don't mean to be, ridiculous about it, but that was the least. That moment made me sad. I mean, like, there have been moments last week, basically as an entire one, that made me mad. It made me embarrassed. That moment made me sad to be a Dallas Cowboys fan. Now, thankfully, there were several moments in the aftermath that made me happy. But yeah, that was a tough scene for Mike McCarthy. I mentioned it. Now, if you are watching on our YouTube stream, you have the ability to vote in our Star of the Game competition. We hand this out after most Cowboys games. Obviously, there's some that where it's not as tactful like last week, but it is tonight. So if you're watching on Facebook or Twitch, sorry, we don't have the capabilities to have a poll question there, but on YouTube we do. So vote Star of the Game. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, DeMarcus Lawrence, the players we named. You can also write in an answer if you would like. If you're watching live now, obviously, if you're not, then, well, sorry, you missed the whole process. But who would you say is the Star of the Game for the Cowboys 20-17 win on the road against the LA Chargers? My vote is, if my vote means that takes this thing home. CeeDee Lamb's at least making it a race. And this is not going to work out well for the narrative of the national media. But Dak Prescott was awesome on Monday Night Football. He is my first stock up. This was the kind of game I saw a lot of people talking about this. Tom Downey, great friend. Everybody go check out the Cowboys Report here on YouTube. I saw the great Bob Sturm writing about this. Everybody subscribe to his Substack. It was kind of a commonly said thing that this was not quite a must-win game for the Cowboys. The term must-win game is hilarious in and of itself, but this was not quite that, but it was about as close as you could get. I liked what Tom said about it. He said, you can kind of only drop that chip like 3 times a year. You can only really kind of call 3 games must-win. And I don't know that this was a must-win game. I know we would have been pissed but if they'd lost, but ultimately this was an AFC opponent. This would have been one of the least impactful losses had the Cowboys sustained it. Thankfully, they did not. So it did not have that total, magnitude in my mind, but it was very, very, very close, especially coming off of the heels of last week, getting the help that Dallas did on Sunday, going into the bye week. If you want to factor in the Rangers' success, I mean, it would have been a long week for the Cowboys, at least in the DFW market. Had they lost this game, it would have looked like a bunch of jokes, really, especially if they lost in embarrassing fashion. And so, in these moments, in these kinds of games, your quarterback has to step up. Your quarterback has to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. We talk about that again. Shout out to Bob Stern once more. And Dak did it. I mean, he found different ways to contribute, different ways to sustain drives, different ways to just keep this thing going. He was the heartbeat, the pulse, whatever you want to call it, whatever cliche. Dak Prescott really moved the Cowboys on a night where he was limited by his play call. And I don't say that to give Dak Prescott, even more whatever, but he really was. I mean, he really was limited by his play caller, and he still found a way to make things happen. He finished the night, if you're curious, 21 of 30 for 272 yards, a touchdown, obviously, in the air. He did have the rushing touchdown, 7 carries for 40 yards. That was an 18-yard touchdown run, the longest of Dak Prescott's career. It was very, very cool to see. A lot of you commenting that Dak was running a lot. Obviously, Scott says Dak ran for his life. Shane says, and Dak ran the ball very effectively tonight. Always makes this offense more dangerous when he can run like that. I agree. Very, very, very awesome job. Adam Blank disagrees, says Dak was average. Well, I disagree, Adam. I think Dak was exemplary on Monday night. I don't know that I would toss out the word elite, but he was. The Cowboys lose this game without Dak Prescott. There's no question about that. If you think that Dak was average in this game, I think you're just looking for reasons to bag on him at that point. I don't think you're being objective. I don't think you're being fair. There are lots of times that Dak Prescott certainly has issues or does things that we wish he didn't. But if you are coming away from Monday night thinking that Dak was average, I think we were watching different games. Maybe yours had a better offensive showing and less penalties. So I would have potentially preferred it more. Let's see here. Now, Michigan says DeMarcus Lawrence didn't do nothing. It's a family show. DeMarcus Lawrence remains underrated. I don't know what DeMarcus Lawrence is going to have to do to get respect around here, but DeMarcus Lawrence was phenomenal on Monday night. It's not going to flash in the box score. He didn't have these big time sacks. He didn't have anything like that. But DeMarcus Lawrence, sometimes you need an enforcer. Sometimes you need, to be frank, a badass roaming, the defensive line, the trenches. And DeMarcus Lawrence set the tempo there early on. This was a rough night for the Chargers offense, and players like DeMarcus Lawrence are a big reason for that. He was awesome. I can't wait to see the PFF score from this. Shout out to John Noning, who carries all of the DeMarcus Lawrence water around here. But I would bet a lot that DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be one of the more highly graded Cowboys after what we saw on Monday night against the Chargers. I know there's some super chats that I've missed. So I want to make sure I get there. Let's see here. Little Buddy 81, thank you very much. Says, got to watch the game with my boys, Peter and Derek. I hope you all enjoyed Little Buddy 81 as well as Peter and Derek. Raising another generation of Cowboys fans. That's what it's all about. Hashtag family. Enjoy life and enjoy the win. How about them Cowboys? What a great comment. Little Buddy 81, thank you so much. It's made me really happy. My son's going to be 2 years old next month. And so he's kind of showing some interest in this. So I'm certainly, it tugs on my heartstrings. I hope you all really enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys got to see a win. David Estrada, thank you for the super chat, says, with a bye coming up, what is our record with the next few games coming out of the bye? Well, we talked about it. The Cowboys host the Rams following the bye. I think right now I would take them to win that game. The opening odds should be out as I venture over to our friends at DraftKings to check them. Even though that game is 2 weeks from now, sometimes they have the odds up. They're not up now, but I bet you they'll be up on Monday. I'd guess Dallas at home is probably, I don't know, maybe a 3.5-point favorite potentially, maybe 4.5. By the way, Anita says that D-Law had a major batted ball. Great point. Again, just I mean, good. I mean, what does Marcus Lawrence have to do to get respect around here? Anyway, I think the Cowboys beat the Rams to get to 5-2. Then after that, they play Philadelphia. That is obviously going to be tough. I mean, and it's in Philly. I'd say they probably lose that. I think split with Philly all told on the season, so it's fair to say that Philly wins the game in Philadelphia. By the way, that could line up with if things go the way they're going. If they go chalk at this point, and the Rangers and Phillies meet in the World Series, then that could be around then. I don't know the dates of the World Series, but that would be interesting to say the least. Kind of like when the Phillies and Astros were in the World Series last year, and the Eagles went to Houston on Thursday night football to play the Texans. But whatever. After that, the Cowboys host the Giants and then visit the Panthers the Sunday before Thanksgiving. I don't think it's absurd to say the Cowboys win at least two of their next four games. Again, the Rams, Eagles, Giants, and Panthers. They maybe even win three of those four because I don't know that anybody's afraid of the Giants or Panthers right now. So if you give the Cowboys at least those two, they're at least 6-2. Say they split the others, they're 7-3 walking into Thanksgiving Day against the Washington Commanders. So I mean, yeah, I mean, they're sitting pretty. I mean, maybe not pretty, but they're sitting in a very, very solid position, is basically what I'm trying to say. Let's move on here. Kevin, by the way, Kevin's really got it out for Jalen Tolbert. Kevin, look, I don't know if this is a bit of yours, if you're joking, saying that Jalen Tolbert should have a stock down for having a turnover. This is such a finicky thing. If we're going to pick on Jalen Tolbert for this, again, now we're really reaching to try to tear Jalen Tolbert down at this point. I mean, it was a really bang bang thing, and he obviously Jalen Tolbert's not purposefully trying to muff the punt and give the Chargers the ball. He very obviously thought that he had to recover the ball in the name of keeping it in possession of the Cowboys. This was a unique turnover. I don't think it's asking a lot to, open the parameters of discussion on this particular one. Hourglass 420, thank you for the super chat. Says thank you for the show, RJ. We got the W. Agreed. Julian Sosa, thank you for the super chat. Says death, taxes, and run on first down. Dak looked good. He really did. So kudos to Dak Prescott. I think he's leading the star of the game vote right now. A lot of you are saying this. Kevin is the comment we're putting up here. Says this is going to sound crazy, but the Rams have me more nervous than the Eagles. I went on Kay Adams' show a few weeks ago, and I said that the Cowboys were not nervous about or weren't afraid or threatened by the Eagles. And I was just kind of speaking generally on behalf of any Cowboys player. And that's kind of my thought. I don't I feel very confident the Cowboys can play with the Eagles because we've seen that multiple times. I was never confident that the Cowboys could play with the 49ers, and obviously we saw how that worked out. So I kind of get this point that the Eagles don't scare the Cowboys or don't scare us as Cowboys fans specifically because we know that, our favorite team can handle that team. That's been proven over and over and over again. Mikey, by the way, says I wore my polo today. I don't have another for tomorrow. Wash it, Mikey. That's what you got to do. All right, let's get back to some stock ups. CeeDee Lamb. I give CeeDee Lamb a lot of credit. I did not think it was great how things went last week. Nothing about last week was great, to be very clear. But did not think it was great the way everything went down. But at the crux of it all, at the core of it all, underneath it all, shout out, of course, to No Doubt. CeeDee Lamb wanted to be more involved, and I don't think it was in a diva way. I don't think it was in a narcissistic way or an arrogant way. I think CeeDee Lamb knows that he's the the most explosive player on the field for the Cowboys and that he needs to be involved. And so I will give CeeDee a whole hell of a lot of credit for calling his shot and then living up to it. 7 targets, 7 receptions, 117 yards, some critical conversions from CeeDee Lamb. What an elite performance from this was one of the best games that CeeDee Lamb has ever had with the Dallas Cowboys. And it obviously isn't true in a statistical sense. I think we can find more statistically impressive performances that he has had. But in terms of just overall vibes, if you want to call it that, I mean, the fact that CeeDee was like, get me involved, and that he lived up to it. There are not a lot of people who could do that. I mean, not a lot of players in the NFL. So, and certainly not a lot of players on the Cowboys. So, super awesome how CeeDee Lamb lived up to it. Forever DC says CeeDee needs to not take his frustrations to the media. Dak had a little to do with his yardage. Again, I don't know what's fair to say that CeeDee should or shouldn't do. That's why I'm saying it was kind of a bad look overall. But it worked. And it didn't just work for CeeDee having a more successful box score day, but it worked for the team. He was such an important part of what they did offensively that it was in the name of the overall goal, and I think we can support that. Steven, thank you for the super chat. He's jumped on late, may have covered it, but we have to go over more for Cook, right? Opening up for him so dang fast. Completely agree. Now, I think the Cowboys, and we've kind of explained some things away from the first weeks of the season by saying that the Cowboys blew teams out and then got blown out, and that's true. So there hadn't really been this opportunity for Brandon Cooks. You could argue, I mean, this was the closest game the Cowboys have played, right? I mean, they blew out 3 teams in their other 3 wins. They got blown out by the Niners, and then their game against the Chargers, they were kind of behind the 8 ball from the very beginning. This was kind of the first, like, back and forth, trading blows, whatever you wanna call it, game that they've had, through 6 weeks of the season, and so maybe you believe that it took that for Brandon Cooks to get involved, but I agree with you. I mean, like, you can't not use this dude at this point. Like, you have to find ways to get him involved, and to their credit, the Cowboys did. The touchdown was a thing of beauty. The jet sweep was a thing of beauty. Just straight up throwing it to him on 3rd and 10. Who cares if he's a smaller dude? That was a big boy physical catch by CeeDee Lamb, by Brandon Cooks on 3rd and 10. So, absolutely, I'm all for it. Get Brandon Cooks all the more involved. Great point by you, Steven. I agree. In fact, I don't think we've mentioned it yet, but stock up for Brandon Cooks. I mean, I feel like that's pretty obvious at this point. So kudos to you, Brandon Cooks. You catch your first touchdown with the Dallas Cowboys and do so in a fashion that ultimately is part of how the Cowboys win the game. Like, yeah, you're going to be on the stock report here. So let's move on. A lot of you have commented about this. I guess let's get to some of these really quickly. DeMarcus Lawrence, dude, come on, people, wake up. Wake up and appreciate DeMarcus Lawrence. All right, he's one of the best players on the Cowboys. Quit sliding him. DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be one of those players that you're going to look back on in 10 years and be like, man, you know what? I should have appreciated him more. Yeah, you should have. You have the opportunity now. DeMarcus Lawrence was incredible. He was an enforcer on Monday Night Football against the Los Angeles Chargers. Tank Lawrence forever. Again, some of you mentioned this. This was a late addition for me. Obviously, the moment at the end was incredible. Stock up Osa Odigizua. It had been a little bit since we saw like a flash play from Osa, which really says a lot about how strong he played during the first few weeks of the season. But Osa Odigizua was just awesome. I mean, again, the Cowboys kind of got what they needed from their call it star, call it superstar, call it whatever you want players, and Osa Odigizua certainly falls into that camp. The Cowboys got exactly what they needed from him on Monday night. He was awesome. Wingardium Leviosa Odigizua. Everybody, please get it right. I suppose let's round out these stock ups. Maybe my most contentious one is I have Donovan Wilson as a stock up. I know we have commented with the safety play from the Cowboys. I thought Dono was awesome. I mean, again, the Cowboys needed a bit of enforcement. They needed some attitude early in this game when things were kind of going awry. When the Chargers offense was thriving and flourishing, and Donovan Wilson really stepped up. It's been awesome to have Donovan Wilson back. I say that as a fighting Texas Aggie, of course, but Donovan Wilson, kudos to you. My final stock up, how could we leave him out? It wasn't that he was, less than anybody else. The conversation just hadn't gotten here naturally. Stock up Marquise Bell. Goodness gracious. And seriously, cool for Marquise Bell how often he was shouted out by the broadcast. Got to be a cool moment for his family and friends and everybody watching, and for him to have this big game in the process. To be an undrafted free agent, a year and a half later, be balling out on Monday Night Football in a big game, Dallas Cowboys, and again, just kind of getting all this love in the process. He was incredible. And I know that the comment earlier was about safety play, and I know that, Marquise Bell isn't really a safety at this point. So if you want to cheat and call him one, I'm fine with that. I wrote about that. But he was just, man, he was amazing. Little buddy 81 is back. Thank you for the super chat, LB81. Says talk about Marcus Bell. Kid played great. Looking forward to his future. He is the future kind of just big baller, right in the middle or back of the Cowboys defense. He's calling the future run first. We've kind of been talking about that for a while. It's just kind of the way the contracts seem to look. Marquise Bell had his best game as a member of the Dallas Cowboys. And I know that somebody commented this earlier. The Cowboys really needed some help at linebacker specifically with Leighton Vander Esch now officially being on injured reserve. One game down in case I know we didn't talk about this a lot on the roundtable last week. Leighton, if you don't know the rules, he has to miss, and so does CJ Goodwin, who's on injured reserve now. They have to miss at least 4 games. The bye week does not count. When you're placed on injured reserve, you must miss at least 4 games before you're eligible to return, just so everybody knows the rules when it comes to Leighton Vander Esch. Kudos to Marquise Bell. Very, very happy with what you did. So we had Mike McCarthy as a stock down. It shouldn't come as a shock to anybody that we had team penalties as a stock down. Again, you're getting penalized 11 times. Like, get this together. This is silly at this point. And I've said this before. By the way, I just saw a tweet here from Dick Harris, the DallasCowboys.com friend of the show, said Dak Prescott just referred to Brandon Aubrey as Butter Aubrey. Okay. Um, all right. Well, Dak Prescott has officially offered a nickname for Brandon Aubrey. Brandon didn't make my stock report, but Butter Aubrey is the official nickname, it seems. Stock down team penalty. Stock down Michael Gallup. We talked about them. We invented a new category here tonight. I hope everyone is okay with this. By the way, a lot of you are commenting about the Chargers lady that was on camera a lot. That was really kind of a fun lightheartedness in a moment that was very stressful, and it's fun for us because our team won. I don't think it's as fun for Chargers fans. So sorry about that, Chargers fans, but yeah, sorry, not sorry. Anyway, we've talked a lot now about how this was kind of a weird game, kind of a hectic game, kind of a chaotic game, and frankly, kind of a volatile game. Now, I'm not a stock market trader. I don't really know anything about this world. So if this is a term, um, and we invented it here, myself and our fantastic producer, who will always remain nameless. But we invented a term, and it might be an actual real stock term. But all this stuff kind of goes over my head. Recently, we watched the movie The Big Short. Don't understand it. Like none of it is just not for me. I'm just a podcaster, blogger, dude. Like this is all I can do, really. So anyway, Brian, though, thank you for the super chat about the IR. It's 4 games, not 4 weeks. So Leighton Vander Esch has to miss 3 more games. The bye week does not count as one of them. Anyway, uh, back to this point. Um, we created a term called volatile stock. And what this is meant to kind of describe are players who had some topsy-turvy games, like some poor, some stock down moments, and then some stock up moments, and ultimately kind of ended maybe a little bit more positive than not. But volatile stock is the term that we have decided to go with. Again, if we have any, traders here, let me know what you think. But anyway, first one for me, Tony Pollard. This was a bit of a rough go. Oh, by the way, a lot of you are saying my internet's poor. Maybe the internet's volatile. Have we stabilized? I would, if someone can let me know if we've stabilized. I don't see any signs of distress on the internet front around here. But if my internet is fine or stable, please let me know. Obviously, that's kind of important to what we're doing around here. But yeah, I haven't seen anybody comment whether the internet is good or bad. But so I think we're just gonna march forward then. The internet seems to be okay. So um, low is in my let's see. I'm very choppy here and there. Well, let's fix this, internet. Come on, get it together. Y'all are saying the audio is bad. I really wish that I had like a magic button that I could press, but I can't. Let's see here. Have we stabilized a little bit? I'm just going to buy some time while we hopefully have the internet gremlins go away. A lot of you are saying it's the audio. Are we okay? The audio is bad now. Okay, 1 second. Let's try something here. Um, this. I would be off computer now. Let's see here. Oh, you're all saying we're fine now. I'm gonna try to go back to the microphone here. Let's try this one more time. And this, it's really funny that this came up with the volatile. Okay. We're back on the microphone. Is that better? Apologies. This all of you are asking about my internet signal. We're fine here. The internet is fine. I think we're okay. Um, I think we're good. This is really awkward. This has never really happened before, so I don't know. Okay, we're good. All right, thank you very much. We're good. Thank you, everybody. That was fun. That's gonna be a really interesting, part of the podcast for people who are listening and are really watching after the fact, not watching live. So this is why you watch live, people, to get this stuff. Anyway, we're good. Oh, so all right, we're good. Everybody said we're good. Anyway, volatile stock was the new category that we invented. All right. What this is meant to describe is basically what I just experienced, where things are kind of a rough go. You ultimately land the plane, and you ultimately end up on the right side of the stock report. So, maybe you're kind of a 51-49 stock up, stock down kind of proposition. Tony Pollard is that for me. Um, Not a great day running the ball for Tony Pollard, finished with 15 carries for 30 yards. 15 carries for 30 yards. What? I mean, and that is not properly representative, I think, of what happened. Um, but that just cannot work. Now, the reason he's a volatile stock, Forever DC says he had a great run. By the way, Scott says first world problems. I don't know if you mean my microphone or the Tony Pollard thing. But the play that Tony Pollard had, the 60-yard play, was a reception. So right, so like I mean, he was an impact. He was an impact offensively in a critical moment. And so like I can't in good measure put Tony Pollard on the stock downside of things. Which is why again it's a volatile sort of situation. Now, Doxson7, I agree, says stock down running game overall, except for Dak Prescott. Obviously, Dak is a bit of a different case, but man, Scott says O line stinks. Senor Ray 3 says feed Rico. The run game just has not really clicked. Deuce Vaughn was a healthy scratch for this game. That hasn't really, taken. So volatile stock, you could certainly say the whole run game as an operation. Tony Pollard is just kind of the face of this right now. And so sorry, but volatile stock. I have two more to hand out in this newfound category. If you all like the category, we can keep it moving forward. Presuming that we can do so without the microphone issues. I don't want to touch anything because that was tough. Michigan says stock down, Tyler Smith, Tyler Biadasz, Terrence Steele. I wouldn't go that far. But I'm fine if you want to call them volatile as well. It was a very, very rough go, obviously, for the Cowboys run game. Now, by the way, there's a tweet from Sam Williams. If anybody's here live, I would ask you to go check it out. I don't know if this is metaphor. If anybody follows Sam Williams on Twitter, I would check this out right now. Don't leave the screen. But Sam Williams tweeted a photo of a dog behind a fence, kind of, I wouldn't say trapped, but, clearly behind a fence. And the caption on the tweet says, free me with the praying emoji or the thankful emoji, whatever you want to call it. So I would assume that this is Sam Williams saying free me as in play me, give me more opportunities to play. I don't know. It could be actually about this dog. That's why I don't know. But yeah, if anybody wants to take a shot at deciphering Sam Williams' tweet, um, that's up to you. Alan Carpenter says, "Oh boy, Sam Williams is upset." Um, that's my take. I could be wrong, but this looks like Sam Williams is upset that he's not getting involved. Or he wants more playing time. Like upset is a bit of a leap. Admittedly, I don't want to make it a big. It seems like Sam Williams wants to play more. That seems like a fair takeaway from this. But again, it could be something completely and totally different. Could be about the dog question. So who knows? Let's go back. We had a super chat. Thank you, Brian. Says Pollard is the face of the run game. McCarthy is the voice of the run game. The O lines are the clothes, and they stunk. They all need some freshness. I agree. The run game really hasn't been there all season. And shocker, right? We're all kind of talking about how the offense hasn't really lived up to expectations to this point. So yeah, I mean the Cowboys could, and they've had some offensive line configurations they've had to work through. That's part of it, but Tony Pollard is definitely the face. To your point, I like the overall analogy. Let's see here. Scott says Cowboys didn't do their running game any favors with some of their run games. Too many dive runs, ran to the Chargers' strength. Let's see here. Thomas says, my wife, who knows nothing about football, even mentioned why do they make a good play and then go and run it straight into the middle over and over again. Robert Guerra, says volatile stock, the offensive line. Yeah, I mean, that's what this is about. The run game is in the offensive line. You could throw in obviously from a pass blocking perspective. I mean, Dak Prescott, we talked about, was running for his life. Really just not a great day for everything in that mix. Spencer, by the way, says, I like the volatile. It's a good in between for the players we have. All right, cool. Volatile stock, it's sticking. By the way, I will say that I wanted to go with the term static stock, but our nameless producer preferred volatile. So if you all could help me settle the debate, what term you prefer, that would go over well. A lot of you are a little bit upset with Sam Williams' tweet. Again, it seems like, at least based on the replies to, he is wanting to play more. Yeah, so we'll see. Anyway, volatile stock is staying around. Kevin says he's tired. Good night, Kevin. And yeah. Anyway, wow. Kevin says static sounds worse than volatile. Whatever. Static sounded cool in my mind. Anyway, I have two more volatile stocks to hand out. We've been deep in the weeds here. Deron Bland. Now, I saw a lot of you commenting positive things about Deron Bland. So I don't mean to upset you, especially because right now we're all kind of on the same page. Where I feel like we're vibing right now, all of us. So I don't want to upset anybody by having Deron Bland in the volatile category. But it was a bit of a tough go early on. I thought had a difficult time kind of with Joshua Palmer. And look, Deron Bland is still adjusting to playing outside full time in the aftermath of the Trayvon Diggs injury. It did not go well in Arizona. He obviously hung tough against New England, had the big game against New England specifically. Nobody played well against, San Francisco. It was a little tough early on, I felt like, against the Chargers, but then he really kind of stabilized over the second half. So again, I might be leaning a little bit too much here, but this felt volatile to me. Now Michigan says Bland dropped a pick six and also dropped a pick in the end zone, which would have set the ball at the 20 instead of the 7. Shane says, "Whoa, Bland is a mild shocker." Again, volatile stock's not going to hold your hand, people. All right, it's called volatile. I mean, so let's be clear here. Loco says Bland is a solid blue chip stock, pays dividends with no flashiness. Now, to be clear here, I'm not saying that Deron Bland as a whole is volatile stock. We're just talking about the game itself. So like this isn't grading where they're at in terms of their roster standing. It's just about the performance in this specific game. Welcome to the post game, obviously. I agree with Forever DC. Says Bland got better as the game went on. 2 almost picks, but at least he stopped them. Agreed. And I agree with Rick. Says at least he saved a touchdown. Though. Again, that's why it felt like because shocker here. I'm kind of working on this as the game's going on. It felt like Deron Bland was headed south for the stock down part of this discussion. But then he started to redeem himself, right? Redeem himself. Welcome, of course, obviously, to the volatile stock. Eileen Peppers, thank you for the super chats. Says McCarthy driving me crazy with the scary offense. Yeah, I mean, McCarthy's on our list. I don't think anybody's being shy about this right now. Mike McCarthy has had a tough game. Kenny with an interesting comment here before we get to my final volatile stock. Kenny says, "Is this the best Dak game since Tampa Bay and Philly last year? Absolute perseverance." I would say so. Now Philly last year on Christmas Eve, Dak was amazing. Um, and then, things were kind of whatever, and it was kind of a weird end of the regular season with Dallas chasing Philly. And I know the Cowboys lost in Washington, but that was a weird game. He was masterful against Tampa. They all stunk against San Francisco. And then week 1 this year, week 2, Dak really didn't have to do much. Although Robert Saleh apparently thought that Dak Prescott did nothing. Not considering him as a quarterback that had success against them with his comments yesterday. But Robert Saleh, we're thankful for what you did on Sunday. I don't mean to take a shot at him out of gratitude, but maybe show some grace for Dak Prescott, Robert Saleh. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I think that's fair. It does not have the the pizzazz, what's the word I'm thinking of? Panache, right? Or panache, whatever, pizzazz. It doesn't have that kind of quality that the Bucks win had or that the Eagles win had. It wasn't it wasn't a playoff game. It wasn't a division rival, but this was Dak really just hanging in. I mean, you used the word perseverance. This was a really, really gritty performance from Dak Prescott, and not just in general, but by feeding CeeDee Lamb, sticking with Michael Gallup, even though that didn't work out. The Tony Pollard play was incredible. I mean, that was an incredible moment for Dak Prescott, keeping plays alive. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything that's false about this statement. So good job, Kenny. Now, a lot of you are into the volatile stock category. I saw a comment that said everybody chill out. Volatile stock is not stock down. That's true. It's kind of an in between thing. All right. It's kind of you had moments of both. All right. So again, um, nobody get upset with volatile stock. You mean only good things with volatile. All right. The volatile stock is meant to be a gift of joy. It's supposed to bring joy and peace and harmony into our lives, despite its kind of confrontational sort of name. H, thank you for the super chat. Says, good evening, RJ. My husband and I were really happy to see Brandon Cooks involved tonight. I agree with you and your husband, H. I would love to see Brandon Cooks involved to this degree on a weekly basis. So that's my hope. Brandon Cooks thriving with opportunities is going to lead to more of them for the Cowboys as the season rolls on. But I hope that you and your husband enjoy the game. Thank you for checking out our post-game show, and thank you for the super chat. Best to you and your husband. All right. I have one final volatile stock to hand out. A lot of you are saying I'm going in and out. Oh gosh, the audio is iffy. Of course, it would be iffy as we prepare for the final volatile stock. I'm gonna try to see if I can handle stabilizing here. We're gonna land this plane, guys. All right, one way or another, we're gonna land this plane. From an audio standpoint, good audio fine. Trust me. Okay, we're back. Uh, it's really funny that this happened the night we debuted Volatile. You know what? I was 4-2. They're on by. It's all good. All right. So, final Volatile stock. A lot of you said my microphone needs to point up. I'm not going to touch it anymore. That's the microphone. This is where it's going to be. Brian with a great point, though. A lot of you made this joke. Volatile stock. My audio. Again, very funny that this would happen. We're good. The audio is good. I'm not going to touch the audio anymore. Final volatile stock. A lot of you got it. So, and it helped that we obviously described the award in great detail and that we had this microphone issue. But the volatile stock, absolutely Stephon Gilmore. And to be frank, if not for the interception at the very end, it would have been a pure stock down for Stephon Gilmore. I love Stephon Gilmore. I took a picture with him at training camp. He was awesome. He was super cool. He was super chill. He is one of the easiest dudes in the NFL. I think root for. He's a person. Like, I would love so much for this to just be like this awesome thing. But my goodness, Justin Herbert broke his ankles. I mean, Justin Herbert, if you get your ankles broken by Lamar Jackson, okay, cool. We're good. We can understand this. We're fine with this. We can make our peace. We can understand, wrap our brains around how this happened to you. I'm not saying that Justin Herbert doesn't have any sense of mobility to him, but whoa, what was that? And then he had the awful pass interference penalty that tied the game up or helped tie the game up for the Chargers. And so just a tough scene. It's not even a tough scene. It's just a bummer. It's just a bummer that it happened. But he did have the game sealing interception. So, that bumped him back up. Welcome to Volatile. I agree with Senor Ray. Says Stephon is an awesome CB2, but definitely not a CB1. And that's just, that's just tough, with where the Cowboys are at. Obviously, this was never meant to be what it is, or it was never meant to be this way, right? It was never meant to be where he was going to be required to do this because you were supposed to have Trayvon Diggs, and that bums us out too. So it's not Stephon Gilmore's fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just kind of an is what it is sort of thing. So yeah. Now, a lot of you are very kind to offer this. Sean says, paid the like tax, everyone. If you all want to like this video, I'm not going to stop you. Why would you not like this video, given that, well, we invented a new term that kind of became all powerful throughout the show and took over my literal equipment that we used to power the show. So it was kind of an epic night in that sense. It was a good win, right? Because all wins are good for the Cowboys. It wasn't flashy. It didn't make us feel super joyful. I think like we've had more fun experiences during Cowboys wins, but it counts. And it came the day after the Niners and the Eagles lost. And it comes at the bye. And if you're a Rangers fan, you get to really kind of enjoy everything. Great time of year. The fall weather's really starting to hit. I'm thinking about trying a butternut squash soup. If anybody has any recipes on that, I would love to get in on this game. It's just a really fun time. And for the Cowboys to send us into this bye week on a positive note, I think it helps. I'm not saying that this team's going to win the Super Bowl because they probably want to say that all the time. It's a very difficult thing to do, but they are in the mix. They are 4-2. That is an impressive thing. They have a chance to get to 7-3 by Thanksgiving Day. And then who knows? You get to 8-3 against the Commanders. You play the Seahawks, and you get that mini bye. And you never know what's in front of you. But this has the makings of a playoff team for the third year in a row. And that is an exciting thing. DJ Dog 31 with a great point says, who wants to sit on a loss for 2 weeks? I don't. And you know what? Everyone, you got to enjoy Scott Hansen and the Red Zone channel yesterday. If you weren't busy, obviously, you get to enjoy Scott Hansen and the Red Zone channel this week on Sunday. I mean, it is nice. It is a nice way to start the bye week. It's been a hectic kind of start to the season. So we'll take a breath. We'll stabilize. We'll calm ourselves. We'll do a diagnostics report on the audio equipment to make sure that's not a malfunctioning thing for the future of our shows here at Blogging the Boys. And we'll be good. So I'm happy. I hope you're happy. It could have gone better, but it also could have gone much, 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 much more worse. And thankfully, that was not the case. So next game for the Cowboys, they are on their bye, but that does not mean that we stop around here. In case you're new around here, I've been forgetting to put this on our screen after our post-game shows or during them. This is what we have going on. So today is Monday, obviously, and it's normally our final game reaction. Today, it happens to be the post game because the Cowboys played on Monday night. Tuesday, we have our roundtable show live here on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook. You can watch it at 8 p.m. Central Time. You can always catch the rewatch at your own convenience or listen at your own convenience by way of the podcast network. On Wednesday, brand new episode of the NFC East Mixtape with myself and Brandon Lee Gouton. He is the me from our Eagles site here at SB Nation. Cannot wait to ask him about Jalen Hurts throwing not one, not two, but 3 interceptions in their loss against the Jets. Obviously, no game preview this week with the Cowboys off. Obviously, no Madden simulation. By the way, Madden predicted the Cowboys to lose this week. Wrong. So take that, Madden. Normally, we do have our post-game show on Sundays. You get this and how this is a little bit of a different week. If you like what I do, if you think I'm cool, if you want to hang out with me on the internet, that would be awesome. My name is RJ Ochoa. I can be followed on Twitter or Instagram or Threads at RJ Ochoa, on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. If you want to send me an email like it's 2003, you can do so, RJ.Ochoa at SBNation.com. The time to announce our star of the game. I know you have all been waiting with bated breath, and the answer is, as I type it up, congratulations to our star of the game, Dallas Cowboys quarterback, Dak Prescott. Round of applause for QB1. Round of applause. It was a really, really, really gritty performance from Dak Prescott. He absolutely earned this. Brian, thank you for the super chat again. Says, who leads the NFC in picks this year? That would be Jalen Hurts, not Dak Prescott, who is our star of the game. All right, make sure to check out bloggingtheboys.com for the latest and greatest in the world of the Dallas Cowboys. Wherever you're watching or listening, however that is, like, subscribe, those things, they fill my heart with joy. They fill all of our hearts with joy. Tomorrow, Victory Polo Monday. Take a picture, a selfie, tag yourself. Tag me on Twitter or Instagram, once again, at RJ Ochoa, and enjoy the next 2 weeks because it could have been a lot worse, as DJ Dog 31 said. I love you all. Thank you so much for hanging out. It is the best part of my week, and can't wait to do it again. We'll see you on the roundtable on Tuesday night.